Formula One starts the first European stint of the season and comes to Silverstone for the 2021 British Grand Prix. Chevrolet arrived this weekend boasting major upgrades for their two customers, Haas and Red Bull. They hope these upgrades would see Haas able to challenge for more than just third this time around and put Red Bull ahead of the Monster Rehab team. Speaking of Red Bull, they've made quiet, steady progress so far this season and look good to finally challenge for championship points. When coupled with reports the Mercedes-powered cars will be forced to run their turbos at a slower rotation due to an upgrade which is causing overheating issues, the former championship contender Pierre Gasly is confident his team is on a major resurgence. Renault are also a team looking to make gains this weekend with updates the team have been talking about since round one finally coming to the car. Renault hope they can challenge the Monster Rehab cars and at least get ahead of Lando Norris's McLaren, with the young Brit still clearly struggling for pace in what Eric Boullier has described as, quote, quite a handful of a car. It's time for the 2021 British Grand Prix, and once again it's all Audis at the front, with Verstappen grabbing pole in Silverstone by a narrow 28 thousandths of a second, once again locking out the front row for the Audi team. A fantastic qualifying result for the German outfit. In third position, it is Nico Hülkenberg in the Chevrolet Haas. He will be starting alongside Charles Leclerc, who set an identical time. Both drivers just 65 thousandths of a second off pole position. The top four all within 1/10. Antonio Giovinazzi in the other Ferrari will start from inside the top five this time alongside the other Jaguar and lead Jaguar of Stoffel Van Dorn, who joins him on the third row of the grid. Then comes the other Jaguar of aarava in seventh position. He'll be joined by Daniel Ricciardo in the other McLaren, who does manage to start a little bit higher up this time out. Sebastian Vettel in ninth position for Mercedes will be joined by Pascal Wehrlein, who does make it into the top 10 with his new Chevrolet Power. And just outside the top 10, it is Mick Schumacher who will be starting for the Mercedes team in 11th position alongside the Red Bull of Pierre Gasly, managing to go a little bit quicker this time thanks to those upgrades. Once again, though, his teammate Nico Kari will start just alongside him, just 29 thousandths of a second separating them in qualifying. Jack Aitken for Renault does manage to go up to 14th, his best qualifying result so far. George Russell in the Monster Rehab car will start from 15th position alongside his teammate Sophia Florsch on the 8th row of the grid, just 2 thousandths of a second between those two cars. Lando Norris once again in the McLaren, quite a ways off of his teammate in 17th position. Then comes the other Renault of Valtteri Bottas, quite a ways off his teammate. And once again bringing up the rear, it is the BMW Williams cars, with Ocon again getting the better of Perez.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 MyDriver Career mode, episode number 3 today for Season 7 at the British Grand Prix, the start of our first European stint in this season here today. If you did miss the last episode, episode number 2, uploaded last Friday, be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. If you did not know already, these episodes get uploaded every single Friday, and thank you guys so much for killing it once again on episode 2 on the support. You guys literally are smashing those like buttons, and the comments are absolutely awesome to read through every single time, so I can't thank you guys enough for that. So if you did miss the last one, this is how the table looks then after that second round in the championship. We've got a pretty nice cushion actually already to Mick Schumacher there in second place, and you've got a lot of variety there in the top kind of 7, I guess you could say, from P2 down to P7. Carlos Sainz there with the two Audis who've really made, poor getaways from what has been really dominant showings in qualifying. And again here today, they've done the job on yesterday in qualifying, so let's see if they can do it in the race. But definitely a very mixed up order so far this season, with the entire grid still very close together despite such a major aerodynamics overhaul for the 2021 season. So looking forward to this one. We're a little bit down the order, myself and Stoffel here today, so let's see how we can do against some upgraded Chevrolet powered Haas and also the Ferrari cars. But looking forward to this one. Obviously the home Grand Prix for myself, so let's see if we can try and put on a good show for that home crowd as we head towards those 5 red lights for round number 3 of Season 7. The British Grand Prix is underway. The lights are out. It's a good getaway there for Antonio Giovinazzi. He's overtaking Leclerc off the line. Van Dorn down the inside of Leclerc as well. So it's a slow start there for the youngster in the Ferrari as we go down the inside of Van Dorn. Turns to the outside for Village section, trying to feed it around for P5, ultimately slotting in back for P6. But at the moment, it looks like it's Max Verstappen in the lead of this Grand Prix from Carlos Sainz to Nico Hülkenberg. So those guys all remain the same as they were on the grid. But up ahead, Van Dorn is on a charge at the moment. And look at him. He's going down the inside now of Giovinazzi straight away to try and get up up into P4 if he can. Down the inside to the outside of Lovefield corner. Will Giovinazzi squeeze him out there, or will Van Dorn be able to get this round the outside? I think he will do. Squirt the throttle on the exit, and looks like he's got it there. Yes, he does. And he's up into P4. Great move there for Stoffel. Now you can see we're all kind of nose to tail, actually. A bit of a checkerboard there between the two Jaguar cars and the two Ferraris. Meanwhile, Hulkenberg and the two Audis getting away already with a tiny bit of a gap from Hulkenberg to Van Dorn as we enter Maggots and Beckett's now. A little bit of a squirm on the entry there as the heavy fuel obviously unsettling the car somewhat, but we're going to line this up straight out of the car as fast as we can, and now we'll get in the slipstream. Of course, no DRS quite yet for 2 more laps, but we do have a good amount of slipstream going and some rich mix to use, and we're down the inside, and we've already made the move on both Ferrari cars, and so both of us Jaguar cars, despite Ferrari being very confident going into this weekend about trying to beat both of us here, we're both ahead of them in P4 and P5 respectively, and that's a very nice tidy move there to join Stoffel up the order. So now can we try and chase down that Haas of Nico Hulkenberg? We'll have to see. You can see off the last corner though, the exit's pretty poor for me compared to the rest of the guys. I think that's been a characteristic of mine around Silverstone pretty much for most of the seasons in MyDriver, especially last season was a big issue for me for sure. But as we move on to lap 2 now, we've got a fight between the two Ferrari cars. Charles Leclerc, after a very poor start off the line, is now trying to get back into this Grand Prix, goes down his inside of his more senior teammate, and he's up the order into P5. And Giovinazzi's struggling now at the moment. Looks like he's going defensive already to the back of Pascal Wehrlein, who's made a really good start himself from P10 there, and I think that's the Red Bull Chevrolet car of Pierre Gasly right behind him. So both those guys making great starts, as well as Daniel Ricciardo actually, the McLaren Honda in the background there, you can see who's ahead of Sebastian Vettel. So some decent starts for a lot of people in this race. And so as we move later into the end of lap 3, Wehrlein still hustling and hounding Antonio Giovinazzi as they cross the line for lap 4. It's very clear that Giovinazzi is struggling maybe with some issues in the cars. He's going very slowly. Wehrlein down the inside, and he's dropping down one more position in this race already, and Gasly is also right there for the taking perhaps as they go into Village. A little bit of a lock up there from Giovinazzi. You can see now he's holding up the train, and he's just going backwards and backwards, and Wehrlein is already nowhere to be seen. He's already off the camera shot there as we pan through down to the back straight towards Lovefield section as Giovinazzi goes defensive with DRS open. Despite that though, using the brand new Chevrolet upgrades, Gasly is up the order and round and past his former Red Bull teammate there. So that will be a real kick in the teeth for Antonio. Now look at that, into the old cops corner, and Ricciardo is up the order, and so clearly Giovinazzi is struggling with some sort of issues, and it's a real shame for Ferrari. You thought they were really going to take the fight to the top guys here today. Now Giovinazzi is just going backwards and backwards, having to defend now from one Mick Schumacher there in the monster Mercedes car, and behind him is Nico Carey, and also Jack Aitken looks like in the Renault doing pretty damn good at the moment as they go down this straight. There goes Schumacher on the right hand side, it's Carey on the outside there. They're 3 wide into Stowe, and Giovinazzi's going to be pinched in the middle, I wonder, and Schumacher's there on the inside. But look at that, Carey comes out of nowhere on the left hand side. It's a fantastic little scrap between these 3 guys, fantastic action. They're still side by side through the second last corner into the last. Schumacher down the inside, going to squeeze out Giovinazzi, and here comes Aitken in the Renault. So it's all kicking off, and he's just going further and further down the order for this one Ferrari car of Giovinazzi. That is an absolute calamity for Ferrari to probably watch from the pit board there. Meanwhile, for the other Ferrari, Leclerc, he's on the back of myself, so he's picking up some pace. So definitely just an issue, unfortunately, for Giovinazzi's car, which is, as I said, you know, a real shame considering the issues he had last episode already, crashing into Sebastian Vettel at the Brazilian Grand Prix. He wanted to bounce back, not the case, but here goes his teammate Leclerc down the inside of myself. We've locked up and gone wide into that left-hander, so as we enter Lovefield then, we have to give her the position. No way we can squeeze past to the inside. We have to give that position up, and we're just going to have to stick behind Leclerc and try and see if we can just maybe make a move. Probably not into Maggots and Beckett's, but probably most likely trying to stay as close as we can to the youngster in that section, and basically try and line up a pass with DRS on the back straight towards Stowe. So here we go towards Maggots and Beckett's. Did a good enough job to kind of counteract the dirty air into Copse, and so through Beckett's now we go, trying to straighten the car as fast as we can, get the power down as early as we can, and slam down that throttle pedal, open the DRS at the line, and here we go in the slipstream there. And can we try and re-overtake him then for what will be P5 in the race? Down the inside is Stowe, and we've got it. As you look in the mirrors, he's tucked up behind. And meanwhile though, you got Pierre Gasly now going down the inside of Pascal Wehrlein. So Gasly on an absolute charge here, and looking like a shimmer of his former self from season 4, if you remember, back when I was in Red Bull and we were two championship rivals there. But we've got yellow flags up ahead. Car goes slowly. It's Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen's gone slow, and the Audis have maybe had an issue as there's yellow flags as an entire section, and I can see just up ahead it's Carlos Sainz going slowly just ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn. So Nico Hulkenberg at the moment is taking the lead of this Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz going slowly into Copse. We're just about staying ahead of Charles Leclerc. Verstappen's already way down the order now. He nearly looked like he was parking up into the pit straight, and Sainz now is holding up Van Dorn an absolute treat. And after some defensive driving into Maggots, into Beckett's now, trying to feed it to the outside there on the left-hand side of Van Dorn, he unintentionally kind of squeezes off onto the grass and the curbing there, but that's just because he's being held up by Sainz so much now. Sainz for sure has some sort of damage or issue with the car now that's slowing him down. We're not too sure still what happened with him and Max Verstappen, but now as we go into Stowe, he's going ever slowly again on the exit. We make contact with Van Dorn's left rear tyre. He's into the pit lane there, so for sure I think he's got some damage. We lock up into this last chicane, but we're going to hold this through in third place. Van Dorn is now up into second place, so in the split second, everything has changed in this race. Now let's look finally at a replay and see what on earth went on with the two Audi cars. Max Verstappen leading the way at this point in the Grand Prix onto the main straight, where we saw him go slowly when we passed him there, and he's already gone slowly, and Sainz has completely rear-ended him, and there was a huge flurry of carbon fibre that's broken off on the back end of his car, and that's Hulkenberg and Van Dorn going through, then myself and Giovinazzi, and then Gasly there, and there's a very slow Verstappen now limping away, still going in this Grand Prix, but now Nico Kari has smashed to the back of him there, so really a domino effect of damage. And now we're going to focus on Carlos Sainz and see what went on with him. So obviously he slowed down massively after that bit of contact there, probably very flustered and kind of just dazed almost at the crash. So there goes Hulkenberg into turn one, into first place, gifted first place. Now on board with Verstappen. Let's see why he slowed down. It's actually a right front puncher there for Verstappen, so that was what caused him to go slowly, and then the contact was made with him and Carlos Sainz. On board looks a lot less dramatic from Carlos Sainz's POV there, I must admit. And then there goes Nico Hulkenberg into first place, and then we find ourselves chasing after Van Dorn. Verstappen still going very slowly and still trying to hobble back to the pits then, so he's remaining optimistic about his chance of remaining in this Grand Prix. But once again, for a third time now this season, 3 out of 3, the two Audi cars have pretty much imploded on themselves and have just not done the job at converting their brilliant qualifying. Obviously Verstappen's puncher, that's not his own fault entirely, but also if Audi maybe knew that he was bad on his tyres, they should have brought him in earlier if he was really leaning on those tyres. Anyway, those coming back to the live racing action on the end of lap 7, into Stowe, down the inside, Gasly's gone for a move on Giovinazzi. Both of them coming to the pits side by side into the pit lane with Pascal Wehrlein as well. The camera cuts away to us, continuing on for one more lap, but we cut back and Giovinazzi is still ahead of Gasly there. Unfortunately, the camera couldn't actually capture the moment where Giovinazzi just nipped ahead of Gasly, but I'm sure one of them just eventually had to kind of decide, yeah, I'm going to let you through there. And so Van Dorn also comes in, we can see there, and he's onto another set of super soft tyres, so alluding to the fact that Van Dorn is trying a two-stop this afternoon. I haven't really mentioned this so far in the race, but I think I'm going to be trying the kind of more default one-stop, which would be to a set of medium tyres. So we're going to continue on for a little bit longer on the super soft tyres. The same for this entire pack here of Daniel Ricciardo now, who's just been overtaken by Sergio Perez, cleaning around the outside of Luffield. Then further back behind, just behind him is Valtteri Bottas, then being chased down by Esteban Ocon in the other Williams car. He goes down the inside of Copse. They'll go side by side, little banging of tyres. I think that is as Bottas gets sent a little bit wide. And will they pull this through towards Magdeburg? Surely one of them is going to have to lift off it and let the other one through. No, Bottas keeps his foot in there, and they go side by side through that entire section. So impressive. And Ocon is just ahead by an inch, but they're both going to slipstream down Ricciardo now. And will they try and make a pass? Here he goes. Ocon down the inside of Ricciardo, and you can see the difference there in speed. The Williams car probably running a little bit lower drag, but you've got to say that he's really just showcasing BMW's work so far with the Williams team to really make the most out of their Honda power unit compared to McLaren, which you've got to say they're probably focusing more on the chassis and the aero side of things. And so that's a really great performance, and to see both BMW Williams cars being very racy indeed. We haven't seen too much of that in previous seasons, so good to see there that there's a scrap going all the way down to the end of this field. Meanwhile, though, on lap 9, we are eventually into the pit stops then for our one and only pit stop of the afternoon onto the medium tyres. So going to the end of this race, going to be a case of trying to save the tyres and going very long indeed from lap 10 to lap 26, 16 laps there. But I think it's going to be the fastest strategy, or at least on paper, it should be the fastest strategy. So we'll have to see. It kind of depends on if we come out in traffic or not. Obviously, we were around Leclerc and Van Dorn. I think Van Dorn, you've got to safely say, will get an undercut, quite a big one on the super soft tyres. It's really going to be where Leclerc is, because he was also making a two-stop, I believe. And as we come out of the pit lane, you can see he is, in fact, actually ahead of us there. So he has made the undercut work. So now it's a case of if we can try and chase him down. Obviously, his super soft tyres are going to start wearing out a lot faster than ours. So eventually, our tyres should have better pace than his once we climb through a few more laps. So we go across the line and we're on to lap 11. We're going to climb up the order somewhat up into, that will be P5. And so that's pretty much where we were, because we were in P4, barring one or two other cars that are maybe yet to make their pit stop this afternoon. Verline behind us then at the moment, who's stayed ahead of Gasly for now. I believe the odd one out who's yet to make their pit stop in this race at the moment then in this top flight is Mick Schumacher. As we cross the line now onto lap 12, Nico Hülkenberg leading the way. There is Schumacher now, finally into the pit lane for his first pit stop. Then we move across and it's Stoffel Van Dorn in second place, chasing down the BMW Williams car. Then there goes Charles Leclerc into turn 1 in third place, and then we are going to be in fourth. So we have lost one position there to the undercut, but as I said, you can see we've already gained a little bit visually. The gap is a little bit closer to Charles. So eventually, you know, you've got to say around lap 15-ish, lap 16, when the super soft tyres, that second set, would start to wear off. That is probably where we can make our little pounds there. But there is Pascal Wehrlein being chased down by Pierre Gasly there, just creeping into shot. You can see that Red Bull Chevrolet car really gaining down the straight. And speaking of the Red Bull Chevrolet, here's another one of Nico Carey going down the inside. That is of the Audi of Max Verstappen, I think that is. Or is it Carlos Sainz? No, it's Carlos Sainz, my bad. Carlos Sainz. But either way, both Audis still in this race, but very much way down the order. Really struggling for even pace, it looks like, after that crash for Sainz. Looks like his car's been affected somewhat to be overtaken by Carey in that fashion in Luffield. So now we move on to lap 12, a little bit earlier than I thought maybe. We're already closing up to Leclerc with a DRS there. Just not enough oomph, though, down the back straight into Stowe to make that pass work. Going a little bit wayward with dirty air, coming back on track. So having to be a little bit easy there, but we enter the chicane, getting right up his gearbox. But unfortunately, through this next corner, I'm just never going to have the traction to really make a pass there probably on any of these guys this afternoon. We move a little bit further back to this fight of Giovinazzi, who's now finally maybe trying to come back in this race on his former teammate Sebastian Vettel. There's a three-wide moment though as Jack Aitken tries to make a move down the inside. He's on super soft tyres, Giovinazzi on super softs as well. Vettel is the odd one out on mediums there, and looks like his mediums are maybe not working as well as Giovinazzi's super softs or Jack Aitken's super softs there as we move through the last corner onto lap 13 this will be, and Jack's going to try and make a move down the inside of Sebastian. It's going to be close, but ultimately I think the Renault might have that. Yes, he does. And so the monster Mercedes car, Vettel, really struggling. Obviously, we know about the issues that the Mercedes power teams in general have got this weekend. Both the main monster Mercedes team and then the monster rehab team, both of them obviously facing the issues that we learned about in practice about their turbo having to spin a little bit of a slower rotation from an upgrade. So an upgrade that's just a little bit too, asking for a bit too much in terms of heating and cooling of their system. So they've had to kind of slow that down. So definitely suffering from issues. Meanwhile, you can see now the Renault with upgrades and also the Chevrolet power teams with upgrades going well. There's Kari down the inside of Vettel. So I think he's just going to be falling back and back and back. And thankfully for Giovinazzi's sake, looks like he's finally picking up some pace, and maybe Ferrari have sorted whatever issues he had in the car or any gremlins that were there at the very start of this race have gone away. But now we move on back to our fight with Leclerc onto lap 13 now. Once again, second time lucky. This time now we have the overspeed with Rick Mix down the inside of Stowe, and we've got that pretty easily there on the exit. We can take the racing line once again, but looking behind us, Leclerc is looking dangerous. We go defensive to the inside, lock up quite badly on the left front tire, go a little bit deep there, and that allows Charles to maybe just look around the outside, but doesn't work out. Nothing comes of it, so we have to wait. He has to wait until lap 14. Now he's going to try and make a move into the Luffield section. We're down on the inside to defend. A little bit of contact's made there. We try and squeeze him a little bit into the curbing. Doesn't work out. We're going to have to go the long way round. Ultimately, though, you can see it's not going to work. That's too much of a distance to go, and we have to tuck into the slipstream and just try and stay put here and try and maybe make a move and try and make a re-overtaking pass into Copse. It's going to be bold. We have to lift off to give him the room. Ultimately, we're hit with a wash of dirty air, and we have to just stick behind. But now, keep it calm through Maggotts and Beckett. I know I generally have the pace of most of these guys in Maggotts and Beckett, so just need to take it nice and easy. Make sure I set up this corner, this very next one, on the exit onto the back straight towards Stowe. Just straight out the car car, plant the power, DRS open, rich mix going, and here we go in the slipstream now for the third time down this straight. Can we make the move down the inside? We'll go for a little bit of a later move actually compared to last time, and we bang tyres quite dramatically there, and it's a real scrap now with Leclerc going on for like 3 laps now as we send it to the inside now. It's now whenever I think this is the time to make the move. A little bit more contact's made. We make the switchback move, and we're actually going to find the traction surprisingly through the last corner. We give him some room on the exit onto the main straight. We're down the inside though. Surely we can try and squeeze him out into turn 1. Flat out, tiny lift off there to give him the space, and he's still there with the front wing on the bottom left of your screen. But into Village, look at that. We'll try and squeeze him out, but it's not going to work. Leclerc keeps his nose in there. He's so committed to going side by side with us there, and he just does it. He takes no for an answer. I tried my best to open up the steering wheel to squeeze him plainly out into Village. Didn't work, and so now we have to wait down the main straight now of this first DRS zone. Doesn't work out. We don't have the speed. I'm going to have to be a bit patient here perhaps. And now you can see, due to this fight, Pascal Wehrlein and Pierre Gasly have both closed up. The 2 Chevrolet powered cars are looking hungry in this afternoon, and I think if we're not careful, they could come knocking on our door for an overtake. Speaking of the other Chevrolet powered car of Nico Hulkenberg then in first place, being chased down though at the moment by Stoffel Van Dorn. Remember that Hulkenberg is on mediums, Stoffel Van Dorn on the super soft tyres, but he comes to the pit lane now in lap 15, so actually surprising though, to be fair, that Van Dorn was having the pace right at the end of his stint to be catching Hulkenberg, so maybe alluding to the medium tyres, although maybe the better strategy in terms of going all the way, very, very slow in terms of a delta time to the super softs. And speaking of people making their pit stops, Leclerc also comes in, so a little bit frustrating from my side to battle so hard with him, and then he comes in straight away, so I don't even get the satisfaction then of completing that pass on him. But we're up into second place now. You can see Gasly also on the medium tyres. I believe Wehrlein was also on super soft, so you can see the only guys left out are the medium tyre runners. All those guys are making pit stops for a second pit stop, and a lot of people this afternoon are doing the 2-stop actually. I was quite surprised to see look around me at how many people were doing that, but there goes Van Dorn out on the soft tyres then on lap 16. And so now it's a question of, will he have the pace? Will they all have the pace that have made that second pit stop to be able to catch up to the rest of us who are already suffering a little bit in terms of the pace on the mediums, and it's only going to get worse, you would imagine, with 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix. And tyre wear is going to be quite crucial, but you can see there Gasly is actually looking very, very decent in that Red Bull car, and he's sticking with us. Meanwhile though, all is calm in Nico Hulkenberg's world. He's got no cars around him, and so he's got plenty of free air just to do the job and drive to the lap times. Meanwhile though, we've got an absolute scrap and half still going on, it looks like, in the midfield, as now we've got Esteban Ocon down the inside of Sebastian Vettel, who's still struggling on those medium tyres. He's just falling back every time we've seen him in this race so far. Quite unfortunate for him, and Ocon is up and away and past him, and now his teammate, look at that, through into the last few corners. Perez might find a way around the outside. Yes, he has done on the last corner. It's close. Vettel keeps it in there, and meanwhile you've got the Ferrari and Haas also creeping up. Vettel has been overtaken, and he's going further and further back in this Grand Prix. Is now, you've got to say, Wehrlein, who makes a bit of contact there with Giovinazzi, is right up his chuff, and a lock-up for good measure is not going to help him, but Giovinazzi comes back at Wehrlein and gets it down the inside. Very nice little cheeky move there for Giovinazzi in the background to overtake Wehrlein, and now he might get on the back of himself on his former teammate from Ferraris. They go down the main straight with DRS open for all of them. No, Wehrlein comes back at Giovinazzi. It's a great little move to the inside there, and the two in unison will go through the next left-hander into Luffield, and Wehrlein's going to have to go the long way around. Little squirt to the throttle for Giovinazzi on the apex of Luffield. We'll see him stay ahead, but both of them kind of just jockeying for position on the exit quite beautifully there, and Wehrlein is facing a lot of traffic in this Grand Prix. I feel like he's going to be very frustrated off this race. Clearly not the correct strategy for him really in terms of what the pace of that car has. He's just being held up by all these slower cars as we move on to lap 20 now, and for the last few laps now our tyres have really been going off. With 6 laps to go, we've got some interesting choices to maybe make.
Okay, Arif, we're seeing a lot of graining on the medium tyres. We might be forced into plan B. I repeat, we might be forced into plan B. We'll keep an eye on the pace for now. Stoffel is finding a lot more time than expected.
So a tricky situation, but with the amount of tyre wear we've got, with 6 laps to go, that's going to get dangerously close to potential puncture territory. We saw Verstappen get a puncture just earlier on in this race, so we're going to signal to box in this lap. And the thinking is, with 6 laps to go, that's enough laps to really get the hammer down there and try and use the new tyres to good effect. But the thing is, if we take those longer, if we take these medium tyres any longer, there is a risk of not even finishing on the podium. I think I'd rather not take that risk. You know, we've done it before. You know, think back to China, Season 4, Season 5. You know, we took those tyres longer than we needed to, and that ended up in a disaster both times, and that kind of really resonated in my mind when it came to, you know, making the strategy call. So we're going to come in onto super soft tyres, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hulkenberg and Gasly, who was in third place, by the way, so Gasly doing a fantastic job in this race so far with the tools at his disposal. I wouldn't be surprised that those two coming in sooner rather than later as well for a brand spanking new set of super soft tyres. So we're out on lap 21, so we've got 6 laps to go, including this one. Further back though, this fight is still brewing between Antonio Giovinazzi and Sebastian Vettel. Verline has got past both these guys. He's down the straight, so he's getting away from those two and feeling a bit more comfortable. Meanwhile, Giovinazzi to the outside. It's going to be a clean overtake as the brake zone ends into that left-hander, and Vettel down the order, and I believe that actually might be him just at the points or at the tail end of the points. Meanwhile, we've got Stoffel Van Dorn on lap 22 going for the move on Mick Schumacher. Schumacher's on medium tyres, Van Dorn on soft, so you can see the pace difference there, and Van Dorn clearly up the order, and he's into P3. That would be as Schumacher is in P4. We cross the line, setting the fast lap of the Grand Prix by quite some way, so you can see the pace difference is astronomical on these new super soft tyres compared to the mediums, and I think we might be good to try and catch Schumacher. Here's hoping. We'll have to see. We've only got 4 laps left in this Grand Prix, so it's going to be close. But with Schumacher being on the medium tyres, we know how much those tyres were going off from our own experience there, so we can hopefully catch him by the end of this Grand Prix. But we've got Hulkenberg now, lap 23, coming to the pit lane. Gasly does the same. I wouldn't be surprised if Schumacher follows suit there, so that'll be all the medium tyre runners in the top flight coming in for a pit stop. And here goes Stoffel Van Dorn. He's on the soft tyres. He was in third place. He's now going to go through the last 2 corners, and he's going to get up into the lead of the British Grand Prix. So much like Season 5 was it, where Van Dorn came through for a very surprise lead of that race in the Jaguar, he's done it again here at Silverstone for the second time now in Season 7, and he leads the way, and we're in P5 at the moment, but P4, P3, and it's going to be right behind Schumacher. Schumacher's yet to come in yet, but I wouldn't be surprised now if he comes in. Surely he's got to come in now with Hulkenberg and Gasly making that decision. So we're up in P3, it could be P2, and we could be making this a 1-2 for Jaguar Racing, but Hulkenberg and Gasly have had to make a late pit stop there, and so really I'm counting my lucky stars. I made the call when I did, and really actually thank my engineer for also giving me the egg on to maybe make that pit stop there. And really in hindsight, if we made an earlier pit stop, we could have benefited even more, really, looking at Van Dorn's pace as we move now on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. Schumacher has made his pit stop. We are into P2. Stoffel Van Dorn's pretty much booked himself first place in this Grand Prix, but this P2 is still up for grabs because here comes Pierre Gasly now in P3, my former teammate and rival from Season 4. We squeeze him quite hard to the inside. There's no love lost here between myself and Pierre. It's getting very close indeed. We're going to squeeze him out to the outside there. A little bit of contact made. The hand of anger will come up. We're going to have to try and force him off the circuit somewhat, almost on the exit there. This is personal. We're just about going to get ahead now, and Pierre's going to have to tuck in behind as we go towards Copse. And so this on the last lap, we've got fuel issues as well. You can see we're in the negative. We're in lean mixture now to try and save the fuel. We're going to lift and coast somewhat into Magnussen Beckett to try and get that in the green. It does dramatically come back to the green, so now we can step it right back up to rich mix. Perhaps we lose the back end though as we exit Beckett onto the back straight towards Stowe. We're in stand at the moment. We'll bump it up to rich. We've just about got enough fuel, I think. We squeeze Gasly hard to the grass on the right hand side. He's on the inside though. I'm on the outside. We've gone a little bit wide, and he's going to get the much better run as Van Dorn crosses the line to win the British Grand Prix. We're going to try to make a late move. Doesn't work out, and ultimately Pierre Gasly is going to come through to get it on the last lap of the Grand Prix. P2, we're going to have to settle for P3, and that is going to be a bitter pill to swallow. But here is your race winner, Stoffel Van Dorn. Once again, like I mentioned, getting quite lucky, and you know, fortune favours the brave. He went for the 2-stop early, and he's done it, and he's won the British Grand Prix, and he's won it for Jaguar, obviously being a British team, British Racing Green. Great to see, and so I'm happy for him, but a little bit gutted we couldn't get second place to make it a 1-2. And here's a replay now on the last lap of the Grand Prix. This was Pascal Verline who made an overtake there on the Monster Rehab car, and also equally so we've got a move done by, I think this is Mick Schumacher on, we've got Nico Kari there to the inside of Stowe. Schumacher down the inside. He's on the new super soft tyres, obviously they strapped on quite late in this Grand Prix, and it's really just a move to save some face there after a very late call from that team to make that final pit stop. But there you go, Van Dorn wins the Grand Prix. Third place for us, keeping the consistency going there. And as you can see in the bottom half of the table, absolute calamities for Sebastian Vettel and the two Audi cars there. You know, they're going to really have to start answering some major questions in the paddock, really, because it's not good enough for them. For a team that's won the Drivers' Championship once with Carlos Sainz, won the Constructors the year before that, for them to be this bad now this season after dominating qualifying all 3 times so far, they really need to, you know, someone needs to answer for their blunders so far. I don't know who that would be in the team, but someone needs to answer for it, and they need to buck up pretty damn soon. But as we move now onto the Drivers' Championship, you can see nice cushion being built in first place here at the moment. Mick Schumacher stays put in second place there. Verline in third. Van Dorn moves up into fourth place, finally getting on the board in a major way with 25 points in the bag, climbing himself right up there. So you can see how close, like I mentioned even before going into this episode, how close that fight is from P2 all the way down. You've got to say P8, P9 really, even P10, P11 almost. I mean, there's only 2-3 points in it, and you know, 2-3 points is an easy 8th place or a 7th place perhaps. So it's very, very close in this entire top 12. You know, if the Audis got their act together, that could get very, very tasty. At the moment, obviously, I've got a nice cushion, and it's something that we don't actually see too often in MyDriver. So many times I've had to come back from things. At the moment, I've got quite a nice lead, but it can easily go away in a flick of the switch. You've seen how badly Audi have imploded there, but I'm not gonna lie, very happy to be in a nice position at the moment like that. Obviously, we've gotten so close and so far twice now in the championship, 3 times in the championship really in the last 3 seasons. So at the moment, to have a lead like this, I'm quite happy with where we are. The Constructors, Jaguar take the lead of the Constructors Championship. Surprised to see Monster Mercedes still hang on to second, but Haas now coming back at them, and Ferrari still about hanging on despite their poor performance this race. They're still there in 4th place. Audi though lagging behind. They shouldn't be in 5th place considering how fast their car is, especially on Saturday. But Red Bull Racing will be very, very happy with that, putting themselves on the board there in 6th place. But let's talk about BMW Williams for a second there. Haven't mentioned them so far. Double points paying position for them today, 5th and 6th. What a performance there. And you've got to say, that is the BMW technicians working their wonders on that Honda engine, and the strategy I think for them was on point. So they have got on the board with 18 points there, ahead of Monster Rehab and ahead, more crucially, of Castrol McLaren Honda, which they're going to be hanging their heads in shame and wondering what on earth they're doing wrong with their Honda power unit, and more so the balance of their car, because Lando Norris has been nowhere and Ricciardo has been just about struggling ahead for low points. And Renault, they're unfortunate. They look good in this race, making a few moves here with Jack Aitken and Bottas as well fighting, so they got very unlucky not to score any points there. But I would suspect it's going to be pretty damn soon you'd see all 10 teams scoring points in this season so far. So guys, if you have enjoyed this episode nonetheless, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.